We all know that hope is not an effective strategy. Nonetheless, occasionally we find ourselves in a situation where it turns out we've been relying on hope more than objective truth. So, how can we tell if the outcome we want is likely or just a hope or a wish? Stay tuned, and I'll tell you the test I use.
Running a service business can be hard. It is not unusual for business owners in industries like contracting, home repair, auto repair, business-to-business services like janitorial, IT and accounting, and many others to feel overwhelmed by all the priorities facing them at any given time. Between addressing the needs of the customers, managing the employees, figuring out the financials, and getting processes in place, feeling like you're making significant progress on your business journey can be difficult. Welcome to Service Industry Success, hosted by Brian Harding. Each week, Brian will look at real-world strategies for building the business you are dreaming of, while also sharing tactics to get through some of the most frustrating parts of business ownership with a lot more ease. Let's get started.
So, as I record this now, we're coming into the new year. 2024 is right around the corner, and this is the end of the year is a typical time for forecasting and planning and budgeting and reflecting on the previous year and goal setting on the next year, and it's a time to look at what we've done to determine what we want to do next year. It's a fun time. We get to look and say, here's kind of the results of all the hours and all the stress and all the arguments with my spouse about how many hours I'm putting in, and all the things I missed in life, that the weekends I had to work and all that stuff. Here's what it all meant, and how much revenue do we do? And if your company is growing, it's a lot of fun to have these moments to see progress and improvement and growth and to really see what the benefits are of all this stuff, right? But it's also time to say yes, and okay, great, we did X amount this year, we did this kind of growth this year. What do we want to do for next year? And so these kind of end of the year, beginning of the year moments is where I like to talk about, what is the difference between action and inaction? Because, while I'm not a huge New Year's resolution guy, I do believe in, year over year growth goals and things like that. So I guess those are kind of like resolutions. I do think those things are important. And for some folks they mean everything, right? But we also got to have a conversation about when we're relying on hope for an outcome versus having a legitimate plan. Because what we don't want to do listen, I've done this, is create a pattern where we say next year is going to be different and next year we're going to do this, and we really kind of know down deep that we're full of crap. We don't really have any way to say to legitimize our claim that we're going to do this thing other than just like declaring it. And listen, that's a great first step, but we've got to have more than just words and hope, right? So the test I rely upon most is this. And I talked about this a year ago as we came into 2023. I talked about the same kind of thing, but today we're going to talk about it a little bit differently. But basically the test is this. Can I identify the next 3 to 7 actions that I'm going to take to achieve this outcome I say I want? And when I say action, an action is defined as noun, verb, date. Somebody, noun, generally is a person, is going to do the thing, the verb, by this date. That is an action. If I can identify the noun, the verb, and the date, awesome, Yahtzee, that's an action. If I can't, then that's more of a wish, right? So, and if I can't identify, like, here's the next 3 to 7 actions we're going to take, then I'm kind of hoping this thing happens rather than planning for this thing to happen. And I think that's a critical distinction. If I say, yeah, okay, I want to do this thing, and here's the next 3 to 7 actions we're going to take, then I can legitimately say I'm taking steps to affect that change. I'm legitimately like, I got a real life plan, right? And like revenue growth would be an easy example. We're coming up on year end and we're like, hey, look at this. We got a couple weeks left, but looks like we're going to wrap up right around 4 million this year in revenue. And we say, that's fantastic. Next year we want to grow by 20%. So that means we're going to have to do 4.8 million. Awesome. That's a fantastic goal. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to increase our marketing. Well, what does that mean? We're going to increase our marketing. Will increasing our marketing spend by 20% increase the leads and work volume by 20%? And if I ask a question like that, here's sometimes the kinds of response I get. I'll get a response like, well, it should. Okay. Based on what? And then and then there might be a rebuttal like, well, I would hope so. I mean, if I'm going to spend 20% more, I should get 20% better ROI, or well, it better, or if the marketing company is any good, it will. Like, these are the kinds of things that would be typical kind of marketing exchanges that might happen. And these are all statements that indicate we have no real idea what the actions are that are going to actually change the outcome. More money in is our only singular action step. The rest is hope, right? Now, that doesn't mean you can't hire providers who do things like you hire CPAs to do your tax returns, and there's a reasonable presumption that they're going to do the thing correctly. I get that part, right? But this isn't that. This isn't getting your taxes done is not the same as revenue growth. Revenue growth, especially if we're going to have a marketing strategy, like we have to test, we have to do market research, we have to find out like what is our offer any good. We have to do some market research and ask people like, would you and maybe do split testing. Do you like this? Do you like that? We have to identify who our avatar is. We have to identify what their needs are. We have to do things other than just spit money to Google and SEO and like hope that it works. We have to have an active plan. Like, okay, well, we have this baseline performance on these keywords. We're going to do some split testing, that kind of stuff. Or I'm going to do outreach. Maybe it's not marketing. We're going to do outreach. Okay, well, what kind of outreach are we going to do? Like, who are we going to go talk to? How are we going to efficiently go talk to people? What's our message? What are the pain points they have? These are things we would figure out that are action items, noun, verb, date. The other, again, the marketing is just a simple example because it's kind of one of those things that feels good and sounds good to say. We're going to grow by 20% next year, and listen, that's doable. I promise. My company, we grew on average 38% per year for 9 years. We had tremendous growth. I get that stuff is possible, but it wouldn't have been possible if we would have just said we're going to up our marketing spend and that's going to get us 20%. That would not have worked in our case. I promise we would still be have been a very small company if that's what we did. It just wouldn't have worked for us. So those kinds of statements are just indications that we don't have a real idea what the actions are that are going to change the outcome. For if we limit it to, well, I'm just going to do this and that should work, the rest is hope, right? Another example, which is fairly common and an easy one to illustrate this point I'm making here is, in 2024 we're going to buckle down and we're going to make some real progress on getting our procedures in place. Awesome. Again, that's a fantastic goal. Question is, what are the first 3 to 7 actions necessary to achieve that? And the typical answer is, yeah, we need to figure that out. And that just like kicks the can down the road. And that's our first action step now, is figuring that out. And that first action step may or may not ever happen because it's just delayed. It's just we're just punting it. We're just kicking it down the road. And we say we want to do this thing, but we skipped a part about saying, in order to have that be a realistic expectation, not a hope, not a wish, I need to identify my first 3 to 7 actions to achieve that. So for any outcome we declare we want to achieve, I would recommend the very next thing we ask is just what I said. I want to do this. I want to get, I want to reduce the amount of warranty work we're doing. Okay. What are the next 3 to 7 actions to achieve that goal? I want to have our employees improve their closing rate. Great. What are the next 3 actions to achieve that goal? Again, just programming ourselves to actively create plans rather than actively rely on hope as our strategy. Next year, we need to reduce the amount of warranty work we're doing. Okay. And now what? Right? So when those and you're going to hear these conversations with, if you have partners, you're going to have that with them. If you have a leadership team, you're going to hear with them. If you're talking to your team and your project managers or department leads or whatever, like, you're going to hear yourself say things like that. You're going to hear them say things like this. And the next thing needs to be, again, this warranty work is another simple example. Next year, we really need to cut down our warranty work. Yes. And what are the next 3 to 7 actions that are going to help us achieve that goal? If we just create that, again, kind of an auto reply, kind of like I talked last week, like what's our auto reply when we say this thing, we're not going to have the benefit over the next several years that we've had the last few years of just people have had a lot of money kind of thrown at them. They've been buying things that they maybe wouldn't have bought in other circumstances because they had a whole bunch of cash on hand. The buying decisions from our consumers are changing now, and they're going to continue to change. And we've got to be more reliant on action, not just responding to this influx of work that many people have had. Right, across the board, folks are noticing just different buying decisions. The consumers are just not. They're not getting the kitchen remodels at the pace that they were. They're not getting the fun stuff at the pace they were. They're doing stuff that they have to, not because they want to. In some cases, not all. There's exceptions to that, but the buying decision is changing. So we have to be more action oriented and less reactive. And we certainly have to, for anything we say we want to have happen in 2024, we've got to train ourselves to say, yep. And what are my first 3 to 7 actions to achieve that outcome? Otherwise, we know right out of the gate, like this is something I want to happen. And this is a wish. This is a hope. Versus this is something we are going to make happen because in the first 3 to 7 things we're going to do to make it happen are these things: noun, verb, date. So anyhow, I hope that helps. It's end of the year is an exciting time. It's a fun time to reflect. There's holiday Christmas parties in companies and it's great to celebrate for a variety of reasons. It's great to show our employees thanks and their families thanks. It's a fantastic time of year, and this forward looking is just it's a wonderful time. It's fantastic. It's one of the best times of year to reflect on what we've done and the successes we've had and see the benefits of all the sacrifices we've made and to look at next year and how great it's going to be. And this is important for us to just instill ourselves, and our next 3 to 7 actions are what? So anyhow, I hope that helps. As usual, if you find this information helpful, please share the podcast with a friend or colleague you think could benefit from it. This podcast is designed for business owners in service industries, or other folks who listen as well. But generally, it's designed to benefit people who are business owners in service industry. So if you know somebody who owns a service industry, examples in blue collar would be contractors, of course, even auto repair shops, but mostly I'm talking to people who send employees out to do things in the blue collar world. The trades are a great example. White collar versions would be accounting firms, bookkeeping firms, IT service providers, marketing agencies. Those are all service-based businesses. And then in the medical side, chiropractors, veterinarians, that kind of stuff, boutique medical offices, that kind of stuff. So those are the kind of the folks that this podcast is designed to talk to. So if you know somebody in one of those industries that could benefit, please share this with them. Just say, hey, check this out. Find an episode that you like and send it on over to them. I appreciate that very much. Of course, public sharing is also appreciated, but it always means a little bit more when it comes from an individual. So again, you never know what somebody could hear that would make their life a lot easier. And that's what we're trying to do here, is to make life easier for business owners. So anyhow, that's it for this week, and I'll talk to you all next week.